The hospital room was a sterile cage, its white walls closing in on Leela, the once vibrant daughter of a tech empire's CEO, now tethered to a wheelchair at 17. Her eyes, once bright with dreams of painting cityscapes and dancing under starlit skies, were dulled by months of pain and the cruel permanence of paralysis. The accident, a reckless driver, a rain-slick road, had stolen her legs, her hope, and the future she'd imagined. Her father, Richard, a man who commanded boardrooms and billions, stood helpless by her bedside, his tailored suits and steely resolve useless against the weight of her despair. Leela's world had shrunk to this room, where the beep of monitors and the shuffle of nurses' shoes were the only constants. She hadn't spoken in days, her silence louder than any scream, a testament to the grief that had settled into her bones. Outside, the city buzzed with life. But for Leela, it was a distant hum, a reminder of everything she'd lost. Yet, in a quiet corner of that same hospital, a single father, named Sam, a janitor with calloused hands and a heart carved by loss, overheard a nurse whisper about that CEO's daughter who's given up. Something in those words stirred him. A flicker of defiance against fate's cruelty, and he made a quiet vow. "I'll help her. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of human connection, please hit that like button, drop a comment, share this story, and subscribe to Kindness Speaks for more stories that remind us how love and hope can change lives." Leela's days blurred into a monotonous cycle of medical routines and pitying glances. Her father had hired the best doctors, flown in specialists from across the globe, and installed cutting-edge equipment in their sprawling mansion, but none of it reached the hollow place inside her. She stared at the canvases stacked against the wall, their blank surfaces mocking her inability to lift a brush. Painting had been her sanctuary, her way of capturing the world's beauty. Sunsets over the bay, children chasing kites, lovers entwined in quiet moments. Now her hands trembled with frustration, not from the accident but from the weight of her own surrender. Richard watched his daughter fade, his empire's success a bitter irony against her suffering. He threw money at solutions, but hope wasn't something he could buy. Leela's mother had died years ago, leaving a void that Richard filled with work. And now he faced another loss he couldn't control. He sat by her side each evening, reading reports or answering emails, unable to bridge the gap between them. Leela didn't want his promises of recovery or his assurances that she was still his little artist. She wanted to feel alive again, but that spark seemed buried beneath the wreckage of her dreams. Sam, meanwhile, moved through the hospital's halls with a mop and a quiet purpose. At 35, he was a man shaped by hardship. His wife had passed 5 years earlier, leaving him to raise their 6-year-old daughter, Mia, alone. Mia was his light, a whirlwind of giggles and crayon drawings. But she carried her own scars, a heart condition that required frequent hospital visits. Sam worked double shifts to cover her medical bills, his hands rough from years of labor, his eyes etched with worry. Yet he never let Mia see his fear. He'd sing her silly songs, tell her stories of brave nights and magical forests, anything to keep her smiling. It was during one of Mia's checkups that Sam first saw Leela, her wheelchair parked by a window, her gaze lost in the gray sky. He didn't know her story then, but he recognized the emptiness in her eyes. It was the same look he'd seen in the mirror after his wife's death. Sam wasn't a doctor or a therapist. He was just a man who knew what it was, too. Lose everything and still find a reason to keep going. That night, as he cleaned the hallway outside Leela's room, he whispered to himself, "I'll help her." Not knowing how, but feeling the pull of a promise he couldn't ignore. The hospital was a maze of routines, but Sam began to weave himself into Leela's world. He started small, leaving a daisy from the hospital garden on her bedside table one night, its petals a fragile burst of color against the sterile white. Leela noticed it but said nothing, assuming it was a nurse's gesture. The next day, another flower appeared. This time a sunflower, its boldness almost jarring. Sam watched from a distance, catching the flicker of curiosity in Leela's eyes. He didn't approach her yet. He knew trust was a fragile thing easily broken by haste. Instead, he spoke to the nurses, learning bits of her story, her love for art, her accident, her silence. He began leaving small notes with the flowers, simple words scrolled in his uneven handwriting. "The world still needs your colors." Leela read them, her heart stirring faintly, though she pushed the feeling away. Who was this person? And why did they care? She wasn't ready to believe in hope, not when every day reminded her of what she'd lost. But then notes kept coming, each one a quiet nudge, a reminder that someone saw her. Not as the CEO's broken daughter, but as Leela. Sam's life wasn't easy. His shifts left him exhausted, and Mia's hospital visits were a constant drain on his heart and wallet. Yet he found time to carve out moments for Leela. He started visiting her room during his breaks, introducing himself as just Sam, the guy who keeps the floors clean. Leela was guarded, her words sharp when she spoke at all. But Sam didn't push. He'd sit by her window talking about the weather or the birds outside, his voice steady and warm. He told her about MIA, how she loved drawing stars and insisted they were wishes waiting to happen. Leela listened, her silence less heavy each time. Sam's stories weren't grand, they were real. Tales of spilled juice, late-night laundry, and Mia's endless questions about the world. Slowly, Leela began to respond, first with a nod, then a single word, then a question about Mia's drawings. Sam saw the shift, small but seismic, and it fueled him. He wasn't saving her. He was showing her she could save herself. The turning point came on a rainy afternoon when Sam wheeled Leela to the hospital's atrium, a glass-domed space filled with plants and soft light. He brought a small sketch pad and pencils borrowed from Mia's collection. Leela stared at him, her hands clenching in her lap. "I can't," she whispered, the words raw with fear. Sam didn't argue. Instead, he opened the pad and started sketching. A clumsy outline of a tree, his lines wobbly but earnest. "Mia says, 'I'm terrible at this,'" he said, chuckling. "But I keep trying. Sometimes you just start, and it gets easier." Leela watched, her fingers twitching. She didn't touch the pencils that day, but the seed was planted. Over the next weeks, Sam brought the sketch pad again and again, never pushing, always sketching his own awkward drawings, birds, clouds, Mia's favorite teddy bear. Leela began to talk more about Herald paintings, her favorite colors, the way she used to lose herself in a canvas. One day her trembling hand reached for a pencil and she drew a single line, a horizon jagged but hers. Sam's smile was brighter than the atrium's light. Richard noticed the change in his daughter, though he didn't understand it. Leela's eyes were less hollow, her voice less distant. He saw the flowers, the notes, the sketch pad, and asked the nurses who was behind it. When they pointed to Sam, Richard was skeptical. What could a janitor offer that his money couldn't? But he watched from the doorway one evening as Sam sat with Leela, laughing over a drawing of a lopsided dog. Richard felt a pang, not jealousy but awe. He'd built an empire, but this man with nothing but time and heart was reaching his daughter in ways he couldn't. Richard approached Sam the next day, offering thanks and impulsively a job at his company. Sam declined politely. "I'm not doing this for a reward," he said. "I just know what it's like to feel stuck." Richard, humbled, began to spend more time with Leela, not as a CEO, but as a father, listening to her stories of Sam and Mia, her tentative dreams of painting again. Months passed and Leela's progress was slow but steady. She moved back home, her wheelchair no longer a cage but a part of her. Sam visited when he could, bringing Mia, whose giggles filled the mansion's quiet halls. Leela taught MIA to mix colors, her hands steadier now, her canvases alive with bold strokes, sunsets, stars, a portrait of Mia holding a daisy. The paintings weren't perfect, but they were hers, each one a defiance of despair. Sam's vow had sparked something in Leela, a belief that she could still create, still live. Her father hung her paintings in his office, a silent apology for the years he'd been too busy to see her. Leela wasn't whole. She'd never walk again. But she was healing. Her heart opened to a world that still held beauty. One spring morning, Leela invited Sam and Mia to an art show, her first since the accident. The gallery was small, the crowd modest, but her paintings glowed under the lights. She wheeled herself to the center, her voice steady as she thanked the man who'd seen her when she couldn't see herself. Sam stood in the back, MIA on his shoulders, his eyes shining with quiet pride. Leela's final painting was of a sunrise, its colors fierce and hopeful, a testament to the light she'd found in her darkest days. The crowd applauded, but for Leela, their real victory was the warmth of Mia's hand in hers, the nod from her father, and the unspoken bond with Sam, who'd whispered a promise and kept it. If this story of hope, resilience, and the quiet power of kindness touched your heart, please like, comment, and share this video. Subscribe to Kindness Speaks to join us in celebrating the moments that remind us we're never truly alone. And before you go, please leave a comment sharing what this story meant to you. It's your words that